guess that's kind of the point, is that, people, it's one of those fascinating things, like, people clock watch the length of their massage, and if they get jibbed a couple of minutes, you can have a fantastic massage, but if they feel like they've lost a few minutes of massage, they can get very upset. We are so hardwired to touch and firm pressure. You can have a brilliant massage, but then you walk out and realize, oh, I got cut off a couple of minutes of my massage. All of a sudden, you're very upset, and that's. I mean, there's discussions around that and time-based massage and all that sort of stuff. But I'm sure we've all experienced that enough times where, all of a sudden someone sees the clock and they're very upset because my touching time got reduced.
So welcome everybody. It's Paula Nutting here, your executive membership, and I'm really excited today because this podcast I'm proud to introduce I hope I can say good friend, Aran Bright. We both come from Brisbane, and he is a myotherapist and remedial massage therapist, and just told me a moment ago he'd actually started doing his Cert 4 in the industry, 18 years ago?
Yeah, that's right. So I think I finished that in 2002. So yeah, around that, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. So you must have started when you were like 8, yeah?
Yeah, not quite. Actually, it was kind of funny because I did my first massage subjects. I think it was 95, 96, somewhere like that. And at that time I was 18, and at that stage I realised, an 18-year-old. At the industry at that time, it's way more professional now. Was not such a good thing. So I sort of went away and travelled the world and did all that sort of stuff, and eventually came back to it. So no, I was a bit more into my sort of mid to late 20s, I think. And by that time, that was I felt like that was a good age to come into the industry then. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'd never thought about the logistics of being a young male in an industry back then that still had the connotations of sex worker.
Absolutely, yeah, and that was really the thing. But the difference between, say, the mid '90s and the early noughties, you had private health insurance, and it was way more professional. But just that 5 years, it really changed.
Yeah, wow, it's incredible, isn't it?
I mean, 18-year-old therapists these days, that's very, very normal, and you don't really bat an eyelid. So, back then it was still, a lot of stigma attached to it. Thankfully, while there may still be some, that 80, 90, 95% of people have got a very, very positive attitude towards massage therapy. Back then I think there was still a positive attitude, but it was just a bit like, what sort of massage, I suppose there was a bit more of that going on. So,
and I think the terms masseur and masseuse, those terms, then now it's massage therapists. So it's like actress or actor, and now they're all actors. It's taken us from an emotional comment to a tag of an educational profession. I think that's a long way too to help stabilise an industry.
Yeah, it did. Actually, it's funny you mention that because I was studying sociology, and so I learnt about things like gender pronouns and discourse, and then when they did sort of change to massage therapist, it was probably a thing to sort of remove gender from the title, but it as a byproduct, it actually probably added some extra level of perceived professionalism to it, because all of a sudden you're a therapist, or a practitioner rather than a masseur, which it means exactly the same thing, but there's just this perception with it that sort of shifted. So it was probably a good thing in the long run, for sure.
Well, I think it was a good thing in that it's moved us from the connotations of sex industry, so it gives a strong delineation between the two, and I think it keeps, there's a safety guidelines for the people that work within the sex industry, and there's a safety guidelines for people who work in the bodywork, remedial therapy, and spa. Yeah. So when did you think about starting the concept with ergonomics? Because that's your thing, isn't it? Safe practice.
Yeah. Look, I suppose that's one of the things I suppose that I look at, and so that sort of course, we put together a bit of a course in ergonomics, and I suppose it was just the initial thing that, when you graduate, um, for a lot of people that come into the massage industry, they're already very interested in fitness and health and exercise and backgrounds, and so they might be very active in training and whatnot. But there's still a lot of people that come into the industry and they're not, and so the idea with ergonomics, and to be honest, conditioning for the therapist, was just to recognise that really you really want to approach this like you're a professional athlete, in the sense that you are going to get paid to use your body as the main means by which you're generating an income, and so you really do want to train like an athlete, and that's that's something that on one level should be kind of fairly obvious, but for a lot of other people they don't make that step, and so they get out and start working, and then their body just falls apart really quickly, and so while the ergonomics are kind of the first stepping stone, it's a stepping stone into then developing as a therapist, and so that was just something that to me was kind of front and center, but certainly not the finishing point for developing as a therapist. So
I don't know if I ever really remember learning too much when we went through and did our diploma. I remember like the way we were taught how to stand so that we took more weight in our lower limbs and use our bodies to move forward versus just pushing with your wrists and thumbs and elbows. Yep. Do you think it's changed much? Because you're actually lucky enough that you are an academic as well, so you're teaching in one of the main colleges here in Queensland. Yeah.
And look, no, I don't think it has, to be honest. Actually, it was one of those things where, look, the simple point is, I think for a lot of people, they will have either, maybe even a bad teacher, but that teacher may teach them a few things about ergonomics and positions and how to use their body effectively and whatnot, and people will pick up on it. Other people, for whatever reason, and I mean, this was one of the things we were chatting about before we got started, is that there is this sort of feedback mechanism for people that you equate this basic fundamental formula, if you like, where if I'm putting a lot of effort and energy from my body into the client that I'm working with, that equals a good massage. And so therefore it's almost like the more internal stress we feel in our body, the better the work I'm doing. And that's a kind of fundamental flaw we want to get past, because if, as I joked before, even if you have a bad teacher, but that bad teacher actually is showing you how to work more efficiently, then you're going to conserve your energy. But what your internal feeling is going to be is that you're almost slacking off a bit. And so a lot of people really get stuck in that paradigm. They probably come to this industry because they're people pleasers and they want to do the best for people and give everything. They're givers, and so they sort of therefore assume if I'm working really hard, I'm using electricity, that's the way to go. So no, look, I don't know that it has changed, because to be honest, everyone understood ergonomics back then. Everyone understands it now. People would teach it back then. They still teach it now. I don't know that we've got the magic pill to sort of be able to really teach that really effectively. It's something that I think therapists have actually got to open themselves up to a bit. Change it to my mind. Actually, one of the biggest problems is actually changing some of the paradigms and beliefs around their practice first, before they can start to accept the idea of efficient body use. So yeah, in some respects, and I'm going to say no, I don't know that it has changed that much. So.
No, maybe the other end of that stick is that it's still a big perception within the general public. Oh, mate, I went in and had a massage. I was so sore that she/he stuck his elbows right down into my back.
Yes.
God, it was a good massage.
Yes.
So,
yep.
Like we need to be able to find some way to teach the general public that less is actually more.
Yeah. Look, I think one of the basic things we all enjoy is pressure, and like you get a good hug from someone. Someone comes up and gives you this sort of barely touches. I know we're in the COVID-19 era, so all of a sudden Reiki hugs are now the way to go. But when someone comes up to you and they give you a good firm hug, you go, oh, that felt really nice. Someone comes up and give you this lukewarm sort of wet, or the handshake, the wet fish handshake. there's something intrinsic in you that doesn't. You just no, that didn't feel very good.
Do you think it's the pressure or the length? Because I was talking to my partner and he was saying that there's studies that any kiss, for example, so we've got skin contact, should be a minimum of 6 or 8 seconds or something. There's a length of time, and that's that sensory development to happen. I wonder if it's when we put our hands on someone, when we connect with them, it's as much as the longevity in there versus those kind of light flicky things that seem to be quite disjointed, that touch and gentle pressure, but having the sustainment of it, length of time. What's your thoughts on that?
I'd say it's both, and so I guess that's kind of the point, is that people. It's one of those fascinating things, people clock watch the length of their massage, and if they get jibbed a couple of minutes, you can have a fantastic massage, but if they feel like they've lost a few minutes of massage, they can get very upset. We are so hardwired to touch and firm pressure. You can have a brilliant massage, but then you walk out and realize, I got cut off a couple of minutes of my massage. All of a sudden, you're very upset, and that's. I mean, there's discussions around that and time-based massage and all that sort of stuff. But I'm sure we've all experienced that enough times where, all of a sudden someone sees the clock and they're very upset because my touching time got reduced, and so my suspicion is with this is that we all enjoy the firm touch. We moderate pressure, not intensity. Like it's firmness. It's like when we were babies, mum touched us, held us. Our parents, whoever touched us and held us, and that made us feel. Yeah, we're just hardwired to that. Where I think we've gone a bit wrong is this idea that we have to sort of smash and break up tissue, and that's part of the problem. I think is really promulgated in society. Like in some degrees it's a virus. It's spread. We've got to smash and break things up. So that's where that intense, painful massage kind of comes in. Whereas I would suggest that if we're just talking very fundamental massage, like moderate pressure, great. That means that for the therapist, you can actually work leaning on someone, basically just leaning on someone, but you don't have to dig and crush and really use your fingertips hard and bring on early onset arthritis or tendinopathies or whatever, to be a really good therapist. And so, there's part of that is the public perception for sure that you need to be beaten up. Yeah. Part of it, I think, unfortunately, is in the massage industry itself, and we've got these sort of myths perpetuated that we've got to break up tissue and all this sort of stuff. Where, to be honest, you just don't. It's just not true. So.
Physiologically impossible. So, if we come back to the therapists? Where do you think they're most vulnerable? We tend to always talk thumbs are where
sure.
people fall out quickly.
Yep.
And can you offer any tips, for the new therapists? Because in this membership that we've got here, there are people that have been just recently out. People have been out for ages, and
Yep.
What can you offer?
There's a few things. One is to have a look at yourself and feel like you're out with your own health and well-being. That's got to be front and center. If you're feeling like, oh, my diet's not quite right, make a few small adjustments. Like in the current circumstance, I'm trying to sort of cut out dairy and bread at the moment because they're two little simple things that you can do that on irritable bowel syndrome, FODMAP diets, if you're into that sort of thing, we know that they're simple things that work really well. That can have a huge impact on your overall system. Look at your strength training, like resistance training. I think you've got to always maintain a moderate level of resistance training if you're going to be a massage therapist at all. And then look, the other big factor I'd say as well is really take the time to actually start and learn a little bit more about the nervous system. I think that's one very, very simple thing, because we learn so much about muscles, and we in our general basic diploma we learn nothing about the nervous system. And if we start to sort of think about this sort of living, breathing, intelligent, organic computer that is the human body, and we start to relate to it more as we're working via the mechanism, the nervous system, rather than sort of pulleys and levers and muscles, and like that's true as well. But we sort of, that's where we get into this idea of forcing everything with our techniques. And I think that's one of the fundamental things is that, yes, reflect on yourself, what you can do to improve yourself, your health, your well-being and whatnot, but also then how are you interacting with your client and their body. And so if we start to think from the level of mediated through the nervous system rather than mediated through muscle mass and breaking up fascia and that sort of thing, I think that straight away changes the entire paradigm and rationale for what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you know, my big thing is always over the last 5 to 10 years has been about the nervous system. It's a much faster circuitry to improve the quality of the muscle tension, power, etc. So I know that, and it would be great if we can get more of that into our educational matrix. But right now, you're right. It's anatomy and physiology is basically muscles, origins, insertions, and action.
We do a fantastic job on that, and look, it's amazing how well people know their muscles and their musculoskeletal anatomy. It's really impressive. Diploma graduates, even Cert 4 graduates, it's really impressive. I think that's the thing when physios kind of chat to the average diploma therapist and they go, oh, they know their anatomy. Like, often, because physios have got a huge amount on their plate when they're studying, so often their musculoskeletal is just a component of what they do. It's not everything they do. It's a component of what they do. And they chat to diploma therapists like, oh, gee, they know their anatomy. That's really good. I think the problem is, though, is that it's very in that musculoskeletal realm. And so if we can expand our understanding, be it lymphatics or something like that as well, you really start to change as a therapist the way you approach things.
Yeah, that's so true. So if you were going to give therapists what techniques that you'd see for them to relieve themselves with pain, dysfunction.
Yeah. So
do you have a morning routine?
Well, look, yes. I mean, and look, this is the interesting thing because look, what I do is based around what interests me and engages me, and so like actually you might recall the workshop. It was in Canberra. I think you supervised that for us, and I talked about a set of exercises called Gymnastica Natural, and that's a Portuguese name, Brazilian. But look, it's body weight movement, sort of a bit like yoga, a bit like animal movement stuff, and I love it. I love it. It's varied. It's different. You're using different angles in your body rather than same consistent loading that you would do with repetitive weightlifting. I mean, that works for me. Other people, that's not so great. But those things are, loading your body, putting your joints in different angles, because that's what we're doing when we're massaging. When we're massaging, it's not a consistent angle. Like it glides, it moves, it changes. There's variation. We're going to end up in different positions with different bodies, and so I would encourage people to be doing things for themselves that are simple examples would be crawling type movement, bear walks. You're walking on your hands and you're walking on your feet, or walking on your hands and you're walking on your knees, but you're holding your body weight up, and that is what you do as a massage therapist. You're holding your body weight up all the time. So really simple things like that and variations like that. In yoga, you're doing downward dog a lot. In yoga, for those that have done any or enjoyed, I mean, the idea of doing downward dog as a rest position, that's where you hang out to recover in a flow, is great, because that's like, if we can do that while we're doing a massage, we can hang out on a person recovering our energy rather than like be doing stuff and be fatiguing quickly. Like that's going to be really, really, really valuable to you as a therapist. I suppose the other quick comment though is that what my current placing is, we're all working on our own little projects at the moment, but is the feeling of, we can call it joint mobilization, but just finding a way that we can sort of find free play in our joints. And so I like to do that with people on a table, is move them around, position them, and then just gently sort of oscillate and move the bones so that they get a feeling of, oh, hey, that's what my joints felt like before they got all stiff and tight. I can feel things move, and it's almost like as soon as your body remembers that, it restores like normal muscle tone. The flip side is you can do that with your own body, and that's where you might grab a foam roller or anything, you know, a small child, you know, something that you can lean up against, but try to sort of like move and roll, and like just the ground is great for this as well. Just rolling on the ground, getting pressure into the rib cage and spine and these sort of areas, and just finding ways to feel, you know, relaxed, deep movement in your body. It's you know, reconnecting with those. You know, joint receptors are really good. There's a lot of neural input in joint receptors, and if we can feel those little joints moving and figure out how do I relax it so that joint can just get a bit of free play into it, you know, it can be really, really, really effective relaxation and physical winding down, which, you know, quite frankly at the moment is probably what we all need to be doing a bit, is working on ourselves, restoring. You know, a lot of us are not working at the moment, so we can be a little introverted, you know, turn our vision back inside ourselves and refresh a bit might be great before we, you know, prep ourselves and get ready to go back to work.
Yeah, that's so true. Perry Nicholson talks a lot about just crawling, all the primal reflexes, crawling, rolling, rolling left, rolling right. You know, just those natural movements that we've taken for granted. So that's kind of a little bit like a similar thing that what you're talking about.
Yeah, look, absolutely, and I mean that's, you know, the flip side to this too is, if for those of us out there that are willing to embark on this, the idea of, you know, audiovisual consults with clients. I mean, we've got to be careful about our scope of practice and training, but things like crawling, as an example, seems so, like, it almost seems stupid on one level. Oh, what am I going to crawl for? What good's that? Go and do it for a bit. Crawl and take your knees up off the ground. So all you're allowed to do is like put your toes on the ground and support your upper body with your arms. You do that over 10 meters and then go backwards over 10 meters and tell me how you feel. You're going to, unless you train a lot, you're going to already be quite tired and exhausted.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Bear crawls. Holy Moses.
Very simple, very, very safe. You know, within your scope of practice, we might want to practice this first, get good at it, develop ourselves, and then share that with people. You know, I'm obsessed with touching other humans. That's why I do massage. Like, you know, I think we can all relate to that. The reality is, for some of us, we're going to be a little bit restricted in that regard. So maybe we can take this time to develop some self-practices that we can then share with other people. Again, check scope of practice and all those concerns. But certainly for a lot of people now, they're certainly stretching, you know, is within scope. I think for everybody, I might be wrong there, but I think for pretty much everybody, simple self-massage is within scope. And so low-impact stuff should be within scope for everybody. Those that have a bit more training, sure, you can expand on that. But yeah, so those crawling movements are just so simple, so fundamental, so powerful, you know.
Yeah. I quite often give clients their homework might be just skipping, not like skipping rope skipping, but skipping down the hallway, because it's making every joint move, and it actually makes you laugh. I think it stimulates the vagal nerve in some way, because I don't know anyone who skips and after skipping for 10 meters, it hasn't got a smile on their face. So
yeah, it's a bit hard to stay grumpy when you're skipping down the hall, isn't it? Yeah.
So if people want to learn, because I know that you provided that course at the conference down there, and I enjoyed that facilitation, even though I was dying of the flu after coming back from this UK, I think. I came back dying. Yeah. Are you running courses on ergonomics and therapists?
Yeah. So I suppose what the current flavour of the month at the moment. I mean, we've got our online stuff. That's always there. You know, we haven't had much of an update on that for a while, to be honest. But face-to-face stuff these days is current flavour is around the sort of, I suppose it's a combination of, in classical senses, joint mobilisation and positional release. Yep. That, you know, is kind of then applying like the whole basic fundamental message is to stop forcing things, and so, you know, teach ergonomics on its own, really dry. People really enjoy it. I suppose that's what we're doing is a real focus on, I call it joint mobilization. That's a nice little capsule to put it in. But again, it's this sort of process of position, relax, get people to experience their body in the free movement in a passive state, so they get to lie on the table and enjoy it. But for the therapist, you're really learning, hey, let's pull way back on the amount of energy I'm putting into this person, but hopefully really maximizing their outcomes.
Bare feet, not bare feet when you're training. And we're not talking about infection control and occupational health and safety and stuff. What's your thoughts on that?
From a training perspective, for example, I'm one of those people that have spent more time in dojos and yoga schools, and like even with the kettlebells, which I kind of love because just you buy a few kettlebells. All of those things are done with bare feet. Yeah. So running absolutely put shoes on for me. I'm not a barefoot runner. I haven't quite sort of mastered that level of foot conditioning. But yeah, so for me, doing a lot of with clients, if I'm doing massage, shoes are on. As soon as we finish massage, manual therapy stuff, we're going to do some movement stuff. The shoes come off instantly. So I sure, infection control appropriate to safety, yes. Obviously shoes. If you're doing dry needling, shoes. Yeah. In terms of training and movement and lifestyle and self-care and all of that, look, just using bare feet, it develops muscles. It requires more balance. Train your feet. Like train your feet, train your toes. Yeah. People ignore it. They train all the other stuff that looks good and ignore their feet. It's incredible how many ankle, knee problems can be resolved from some very simple foot exercises. So and the reason I asked it was because a lot of therapists, if they're practicing, if you're practicing without shoes, then maybe you're treating without shoes. If you're practicing, if you're going to treat with footwear, which is what we that's part of our statement, generally do.
Then you should be practicing at the same, because we're changing what our feet are doing. And I think the perception of the neural sensitivity of the feet and the neural sensitivity of the hands, I think that there's correlation through our circuits. So
sure, absolutely, yeah. It's one of those never-ending debated questions. I mean, should we train with shoes on if we're competing or working with shoes on? That's more specific. So therefore, that seems to make sense. But then on the other hand, if we always spend time with shoes on, do we really develop sensitivity in our feet? So I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer there, but there's two sides to that discussion, I guess.
Yeah, good point. So anything you'd like to add that you think helped you most in your journey through this amazing profession of yours?
Look, I think the big thing for me personally of late, one is obviously continuing to just explore different topics and constantly refresh yourself. Like, if you find that one true thing that lights your fire and that keeps you going forever, brilliant. There are people like that. They really find their thing. For whatever might be myofascial release, that's their thing. I'm sure you can think of some trainers and teachers and therapists, they've found their thing, and that's great. That's lit their fire, and it stays lit forever. But I think for most people, they've got to keep refreshing and changing. Getting lots of massages and experiencing different styles and approaches, and frankly, steal their ideas. It's not stealing per se. That's how we learn. We experience things and we integrate it. It's not
greatest
stealing.
Form of respect, they say, Aran.
Yeah, flattery or yep, absolutely. But that's the way you develop. I suppose the other thing that, for me, and as you probably know very well, is that, understanding the developments in science, and that doesn't mean that you have to read 1,000 papers, but the very simple point we were discussing before about, like, if we're focusing more on the nervous system and that interaction as a medium or pathway to work with people versus, a fairly old school approach of the body, like where the machinery that reshapes the body, and it's almost like the body is a lump of clay that can be molded. That sort of thinking can lead to a lot of problems because A, it's just not very accurate, and B, we really have to sort of destroy our bodies to get outcomes for people, and that I think that's a big problem why a lot of people burn out very, very quickly is they get stuck in that paradigm. So So refreshing your technique, refreshing your body, but also refreshing your knowledge, and read stuff that challenges you in the sense that you might go, not sure about that one. Have a bit of a read of that, and then and just see what comes out of it, because you might finish up and go, yeah, still don't believe it, but the process of actually even going through and thinking about it and will help maybe develop more of what you're doing at the moment, even if you don't necessarily buy into what you're reading. So.
Yeah. Great comments. So the takeaways from our meeting, I think, for me is we're actually talking about this profession. We need to develop our own body skills for it. We have to be, trained to be a therapist. And I've never really thought of it that way before, but training to do this as a profession is a really good point, and no one ever talks about that.
Yeah.
And the neural stuff, me, I'm all over neurolymphatic, so tick that box. And challenging, making the brain have to accept new knowledge for the sake of that it is new knowledge, and then try to crush through some of our old dogmas and it only works this way. So they're great topics. So if anyone wants to get hold of you through the podcast, I can give them your email or contact down the track, or if they want to have any more, you might want to throw me your website so that they can connect in.
Absolutely. So brighthealthtraining.com.au. You can reach us through there via email or message us through the website or whatever you prefer. Yep, you can absolutely. That's probably the simplest thing. So brighthealthtraining.com.au.
Right.
There's a bit of content there now that we've got a little more spare time, so to speak. We've got stuff in the pipeline coming back on there because it's been a little stagnant there for a while. But and then I suppose the other thing is just keep your eyes out when we do go back to the world of workshops.
Yeah.
And it'll be a while. I roam around the country and do workshops as well. So. In the meantime, we might be working a bit more on at home developing yourself as a person rather than maybe your skills as a therapist for the time being. So,
yeah. Well, I will be looking for those, and I'll be passing them on when we do see any more of your stuff coming around. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll be sending this out to the people within the group in the near future.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. What you could do is you could hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. When you're ready to take the next step, why don't you click the link below and get into more information about my mentorship program, and I'll see you on the other side.